Paula Reid joins me now from Washington. So, Paula, several governors have already announced that they're going to uphold the Paris Deal standards as part of a special U.S. climate alliance. So it's also worth noting that President Trump lifted federal environmental regulations. This was back in March, I believe. So at this standpoint, how do you see this all shaking out?
Rena, it's all headed to the courts. I mean, this is a trend that we're seeing with a lot of the policies that the president tries to put forth. Democrats don't have a lot of actual recourse against policies they don't like outside of the courtroom. That's why we've seen lawsuits over every single policy that he's tried to put in place. And here it's going to be the same thing. And once again, you see a coalition of states working together against him. We also saw this under the Obama administration. You would have a coalition of states get together and try to file lawsuits to block certain legislative or other policy initiatives from the president. So, Rena, it's going to be up to the courts to decide, how exactly this will hash out in terms of environmental regulation and who businesses actually have to obey.
Interesting to hear you say it'll likely be up to the courts. I want to switch gears, though. Former FBI Director James Comey, as we all know, is going to testify this week as part of the Russia investigation. So legally, President Trump could invoke executive privilege to stop him from testifying. Is that correct, Paul?
He could try. And the problem here is that even though the president has a constitutional right to declare his executive privilege and protect certain conversations, he sort of undermined that right by already publicly discussing these conversations with Comey, specifically on Twitter. So a lot of people say, in addition to the fact that the optics would not be great, it would appear as though he has something to hide, legally, he may have sort of waived this right.
Wow. You've been covering this legal battle over the president's travel ban, which would actually block immigration from 6 Muslim-majority countries. If this goes to the Supreme Court and they agree to hear this case, what do you expect to come from this?
Rena, it'll be fascinating because this will be the first sort of big case that we see with Justice Gorsuch and really get a sense of how he affects the balance of power on the bench. I got to tell you, the president definitely has a stronger chance of prevailing on his travel ban arguments at the Supreme Court than he did in the 4th Circuit or certainly in the 9th Circuit. So it remains to be seen whether or not the Supreme Court will agree to hear the case. Of course, that wouldn't happen probably until October at the earliest. But we're also still waiting for another appeals court, the 9th Circuit, to issue their decision. Here, the Department of Justice, they've appealed the 4th Circuit. So it'll be fascinating to see if the Supreme Court waits for another appeals court or if they just shoot it down in the expectation that the 9th Circuit is also going to, strike down this ban. It's been a really fascinating legal case to watch, Rena, but I'm hesitant to really predict what the court will ultimately do because this will be the first time we'll have Gorsuch in the mix.
That's what I love about you, Paul. You always like to stick with the facts. I hope you don't have any vacation planned. You got a lot of work ahead of you. Paula Reid coming to us from Washington. Thank you, Paula.